Each side paints itself as the righteous victim, and the other as the unreasonable aggressor. It's a story that's being told and retold, shaping opinions, swaying world leaders, and influencing policy decisions. So here's the deal. Both Iran and Israel have a lot at stake here. Iran wants to build up its image as the leader of the Muslim world, standing strong against Israel and the US meanwhile. Israel needs to rally international support to maintain its dominance in the region. The challenge? How can each side convince the world they read the innocent party, when both have engaged in actions that violate international law? Whether it's Iran's support for terrorism or Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories. But propaganda plays a significant role in shaping perceptions, blurring the line between right and wrong. One example of this is the portrayal of Hamas and Hezbollah. These groups are often branded as terrorists by Western media, but they have a different narrative in the Arab world. They're seen as freedom fighters resisting foreign occupation. Same group, different stories. Another aspect of the narrative battle is how each side portrays its own actions. Israel has justified its settlement activities in the West Bank as a historical and religious right, while Iran's support for Hezbollah and Hamas is framed as an act of self-defense. Each story serves its purpose. Israel aims to secure international backing for its policies, while Iran seeks to galvanize the Arab world against what it calls Western imperialism. And then there's the role of social media. Both Iran and Israel have sophisticated online campaigns that push their narratives to a global audience. Hashtag campaigns, viral videos, and doctored images are just a few tactics used to influence the online conversation. It's a constant push and pull for dominance, for framing the conflict in a way that benefits each side. Who's winning this narrative battle is debatable. But one thing is clear: understanding both sides' stories is essential to comprehending the conflict's complexities. But what about the future of this conflict? Where is it heading, and how will it shape the Middle East and the world? Stay with us, because we'll be discussing the potential trajectories of this conflict and its broader implications. The future of the conflict. Will it escalate or de-escalate? Now let's talk about the future of this conflict, a topic that keeps many awake at night. The big question is, will this spiral into a wider regional war, or will cooler heads prevail? There are some possibilities to consider. First off, the status quo. Some experts believe things will continue much like today. Israel will keep taking out Iran's nuclear facilities, and Iran will respond. This scenario means the conflict remains where it is. No major escalation, but no peace either. The Middle East stays volatile, and the threat of a larger war always looms.
Next, we have the de-escalation path. This is when both sides realize the need to back off. It's the more peaceful scenario, but still involves some compromises. Israel might tone down its strikes, and Iran dials back on the support for its proxies.
Basically, everyone backs off a bit to avoid a bigger conflict. Then there's the escalation option. Here's where things get dicey. If neither side backs down, we could see a broader regional war. Israel might feel compelled to take out Iran's nuclear sites directly, while Iran could decide to fully engage its proxies like Hezbollah. The stakes are high here. We're talking about a large-scale conflict involving regional powers, not just Israel and Iran. The US might get dragged in due to its alliance with Israel. Plus, global oil prices could skyrocket, making energy even more expensive. And lastly, there's the regional war scenario. This is a worst-case outcome, a full-blown conflict engulfing the entire Middle East. Key countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the UAE might get involved. Global oil supplies could be cut off, and the entire political order of the region could be redrawn. So what will actually happen? Well, it depends on several factors. First, the internal situations in each country. Iran is dealing with domestic unrest, and Israel has ongoing political issues. If either side feels pressured at home, it might be more inclined to seek a de-escalation. Second, the role of external players like the US, Russia, and China. Any one of these could push for a resolution or add fuel to the fire depending on their interests. Finally, it boils down to the leadership on both sides. Are they willing to find common ground, or are they digging in for a long fight? Only time will tell. But what's clear is that the future of this conflict hangs in the balance, and it could reshape the Middle East and the world. But what does this conflict mean for everyday people? How does it affect us beyond headlines and political debates? We'll discuss that next. The impact on everyday people. Beyond the headlines, let us take a moment to look at how this conflict impacts ordinary people. Behind the headlines and political debates, there are real lives being affected. When rockets fly and bombs drop, it's not just buildings that get destroyed, it's families, homes, and futures. As the conflict intensifies, more and more civilians find themselves caught in the crossfire. Their day-to-day lives become a struggle for survival, trying to stay safe amidst the chaos. On a personal level, this conflict strips away the illusion of safety and stability. It reminds us that even in 2025, war and violence are part of our reality. It raises questions about our shared humanity and the lengths we'll go to protect our beliefs and homeland. But the impact extends far beyond the battlefield. The conflict stirs up fear and anger across communities worldwide. It fuels existing tensions and can create new divides between communities, highlighting the emotional toll of such conflicts. And then there's the economic impact. The constant threat of escalation disrupts daily life. People worry about rising food and energy costs, disrupted supply chains, and the potential for global conflict. It becomes a constant background stressor, affecting decisions big and small. Amidst all this, ordinary people demonstrate incredible resilience. They come together to help those affected by the conflict, showing compassion and solidarity in the face of adversity. Community kitchens, aid drives, and fundraising events become the norm. Local leaders and organizations play a crucial role, stepping up to provide support and resources to those in need. And then there are the voices speaking out against the violence, calling for peace and understanding. Ordinary people use their platforms to raise awareness, promote dialogue, and advocate for peaceful resolutions. Their voices might not end the conflict, but they serve as a powerful reminder of the human cost of war. In the end, the Iran-Israel conflict is more than just a headline or a political debate. It affects all of us in ways we might not immediately see, but we should all care. It challenges us to be more aware, more compassionate, and more proactive in working towards a better world. So here's my question for you. How do you think this conflict will evolve? Will it lead to a wider war, or find a way to de-escalate? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay informed about the latest developments. Thanks for watching, thinking, and stay curious. Till next time. In the heart of the Middle East, Israel and Iran are engaged in a shadow war that could redefine the regional balance of power. It's a conflict not just of armies, but of narratives. Each side is projecting a distinct image onto the world stage, attempting to sway global opinion in their favor. But whose narrative is more compelling, and why does it matter? Before we dive in, remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on our latest videos. Israel's narrative is that it's fighting a preemptive defense. The country's leadership consistently frames its strikes as surgical and necessary to prevent an existential threat. They invoke the Holocaust and the never again mantra, positioning their actions as a defense of Israel's very survival. In the media and on social platforms, Israel emphasizes how its strikes are targeted. It's precise and aimed at countering Iran's nuclear ambitions. The message is clear. Israel is a nation under threat, taking preemptive action to safeguard its future. Alongside that, we see emotional images of families huddling in bomb shelters, children crying, and communities fleeing in fear, fueling a victimhood narrative. That Israel is desperately trying to defend itself against an unprovoked attack. Now let's look at Iran's narrative. Their story couldn't be more different. It's a narrative of resistance and self-defense. Iran sees itself as a victim of foreign aggression, and its state media consistently portrays the conflict as a fight for national sovereignty. The story is simple. Iran is innocent, attacked without provocation, and is only defending itself against a powerful enemy. The stakes are high, and the language is strong. Words like unlawful aggression and war crimes are used to paint Israel as the aggressor, violating international law and causing immense suffering to the Iranian people. The narrative is further strengthened by Iran's portrayal of its missile and drone strikes as acts of courage and strength. It's a demonstration of the axis of resistance standing tall against foreign intervention and oppression. In this narrative, Iran isn't just a victim, it's a resilient force fighting for freedom and justice. And this clash of narratives isn't limited to official statements. It spills over into social media where each side passionately promotes its version of events. In Israel, online platforms are flooded with patriotic messages, calls to action, and images of a nation coming together in the face of adversity. There's a sense of urgency, even desperation, as Israelis express their frustration over the failure of air defenses to prevent missile attacks. Many feel trapped, caught in a conflict that threatens their very existence. Across the border in Iran, social media has become a battleground of its own. Voices are sharply divided, reflecting the complexities of the situation on the ground. Some users passionately praise Iran's missile strikes, viewing them as acts of bravery and defiance. For others, a sense of anxiety and frustration seeps through. The strikes, they argue, cause unnecessary suffering and fail to address the root causes of the conflict. Some even use humor and memes to cope with the escalating crisis. Offering a glimpse into the psychological toll of living under constant fear, these narratives have real-world consequences. They shape how people perceive the conflict and influence how they engage with it. In the West, Israel's narrative often resonates more strongly, leading to significant political and diplomatic support. The image of Israel as a victim of Iranian aggression plays well into the existing anti-Iran sentiment in many Western countries. However, in parts of the global South, Iran's story of resistance against a foreign power finds more traction. The narrative of a small nation standing up to a powerful enemy evokes a sense of admiration and solidarity. The stark contrast in narratives highlights a key aspect of modern warfare: the battle for hearts and minds. In an age of social media and 24/7 news cycles, controlling the narrative is as important as controlling the battlefield. So who is winning this battle? Well, it's hard to say. The answer depends on who you ask and where you're asking. But there's no denying that both sides are adept storytellers, each weaving a compelling narrative that resonates with their respective audiences. The challenge for many, especially those caught in the crossfire, is navigating these competing stories and finding a way forward. As the conflict drags on, the stakes continue to rise. The question isn't just about who is telling the better story, but also about the real human cost of this war. Every missile strike, every family torn apart, every life uprooted contributes to a growing humanitarian crisis. Amidst the noise of war, it's crucial to amplify the voices calling for peace, understanding, and most importantly, for an end to the violence. It's a call we must all heed. Where stories shape perceptions and influence actions, it's essential to consider the full narrative. Yes, Israel has a right to defend itself against threats, but so does Iran. Acknowledging both narratives is not about taking sides, but about understanding the complexities of the conflict. It's about recognizing that both Israelis and Iranians are victims of a cycle of violence that has persisted for far too long. Achieving lasting peace in the region requires addressing the root causes of the conflict, promoting dialogue and building trust between nations. Ignoring or dismissing either narrative only deepens the divide and hinders the path to a peaceful resolution. As we conclude this exploration of the Israel-Iran narrative battle, it's essential to reflect on the human cost of this ongoing conflict. Behind the clash of stories are real lives impacted by fear, displacement, and loss. The escalating violence is tearing families apart and causing immense suffering on both sides. It's a somber reality that demands our attention and empathy. Beyond the political implications and strategic considerations, we must remember that this conflict is primarily a humanitarian crisis. As concerned global citizens, it's our responsibility to advocate for peace, understanding, and protection of civilians caught in this crossfire. Supporting initiatives that provide aid and comfort to those who are suffering can make a tangible difference in their lives. It's also crucial to promote dialogue and understanding between Israelis and Iranians, encouraging open conversations. Cultural exchanges and people-to-people diplomacy can help bridge the divide and foster empathy. Building a sustainable peace requires addressing the underlying issues that fuel the conflict. This includes working towards a just resolution of the Palestinian refugee crisis, promoting economic cooperation and security in the region. Investing in education and youth programs can also play a vital role in shaping future generations to be advocates of peace. Finally, it's essential to hold all parties accountable for their actions and ensure that international law and human rights are respected. Supporting independent investigations, promoting transparency, and advocating for justice can help curb the cycle of violence and create a safer environment for all. In conclusion, the narrative battle between Israel and Iran is more than just a clash of stories. It's a reflection of the complex realities on the ground and the human cost of this protracted conflict. By acknowledging the narratives of both sides, promoting peace initiatives, and standing in solidarity with the people affected by this war, we can collectively work towards a brighter and more hopeful future for Israel, Iran, and the entire Middle East region. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this intricate narrative battle. How do you think the story is unfolding? Which narrative resonates more with you and why? Share your insights in the comments section below. Your voice matters. Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for joining us on this thought-provoking journey. If you found this video insightful, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to share it with others who might be interested in this important topic. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button to stay informed about our latest content. Together we can continue to explore, learn, and grow through this platform. Thanks for watching. In the past, Israel has built partnerships with nations like Iran before the 1979 revolution and Turkey as a way to manage tensions in the region. However, in recent years, we are seeing a significant change in how alliances are forming. Countries such as Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Oman are developing closer ties with Israel as a way to counterbalance Iran's growing influence. This shift in relationships is changing how the Middle East functions. Nations that once viewed Israel with skepticism are now recognizing it as a key partner in addressing common concerns. And this is a major strategic win for Israel. The situation in Syria has created challenges for Iran's influence in the region, particularly affecting Hezbollah. In this video, we'll delve into these recent developments, shedding light on how shifting alliances are reshaping the dynamics of the Middle East. Now let's break down what's happening in the Middle East. It's really important to understand that Israel is currently finding itself in a position where many countries that previously held back from establishing formal relationships are now taking steps to do so. Why is that? Well, primarily because they have a lot to gain by working with Israel. It's a practical decision based on self-interest. You see, these countries recognize the value of diversifying their partnerships, and having Israel as an ally offers several advantages. First and foremost, Israel brings economic benefits to the table. It can help boost trade, investment, and create jobs, which is something that these countries are always looking for. Plus, Israel has some pretty advanced technology, especially in areas like agriculture and water management, which can be game changers for these regions facing water scarcity. Then there's the military aspect. By aligning themselves with Israel, these countries gain access to cutting-edge technology and know-how, strengthening their defense capabilities. It's a practical choice aimed at enhancing their own security and protecting their citizens. And don't forget the strategic advantage. Israel's location at the crossroads of Europe, Asia, and Africa makes it a key player in international affairs. Forming ties with Israel means tapping into this strategic importance and having a direct line to influential countries around the world. These countries are thinking about their long-term interests, and they see that aligning with Israel can open doors to new opportunities on the global stage. On the flip side, if these countries had formed stronger ties with Iran, they might have faced backlash from the US and its allies, potentially damaging their economies and limiting their access to international markets. So in essence, it's all about making smart choices for their own benefit. Each country is looking out for what is best for them, and they finding that aligning with Israel, which makes more sense in the long run. Hezbollah is a Shia Islamist political party and militant group based in southern Lebanon. Founded in 1982, it is backed by Iran and is considered a terrorist organization by several countries including the United States, Canada, Australia, and several Arab states. Hezbollah's main objective is to liberate what it considers to be occupied Palestinian territory, including the Golan Heights, which is currently under Syrian and Israeli control. The group opposes the State of Israel and advocates for the establishment of an Islamic State in its place. Over the years, Hezbollah has fought several wars against Israel, most notably the 2006 Lebanon War and the 2014 Gaza War. The group is also involved in the Syrian civil war, where it has fought alongside Syrian government forces. Hezbollah's activities have raised tensions in the region, and its presence in Lebanon has led to concerns about the country being used as a launchpad for attacks against Israel. The Group's strong ties to Iran have also raised concerns about the potential for a wider regional conflict. In contrast to Hezbollah, certain Iraqi Shia groups have adopted a different approach. Instead of direct confrontation with Israel, these groups have chosen a more neutral stance. They recognize the potential risks and costs associated with engaging in a broader conflict and are opting to stay out of it. For these groups, prioritizing the safety and well-being of their communities is paramount. They understand that getting drawn into a wider war could lead to devastating consequences: loss of life, displacement, and destruction of infrastructure. These groups have seen the impact of conflict firsthand and want to protect their communities from the horrors of war. By staying neutral, these groups believe they can focus on the needs of their people, providing essential services and working towards a better future for Iraq. But the question is, how did we get here? How did things reach this point? To answer that, we need to take a look at the past few years. One significant factor that has shaped this dynamic is the ongoing conflict in Syria. Since 2011, Syria has been embroiled in a brutal civil war that has resulted in hundreds of thousands of deaths and the displacement of millions of people. This conflict has had a profound impact on the region, creating a power vacuum that has been filled by various external players, including the United States, Russia, and Turkey. The involvement of these major powers has turned Syria into a proxy battleground, where they vie for influence and compete for regional dominance. The presence of these external forces has destabilized the region even further, exacerbating the already volatile situation. Another key factor is the resurgence of ISIS, or the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. ISIS emerged in the midst of the Syrian civil war and quickly gained control of large swaths of territory in both Syria and Iraq. This extremist group has posed a serious threat to regional stability, carrying out numerous attacks and instilling fear and insecurity among the civilian population. The rise of ISIS has prompted regional governments to seek support from external allies, such as the United States and its partners, to combat this common enemy. Then we have the 2014 Israel-Gaza conflict. This was a major escalation of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that took place between Israel and Hamas, the militant Palestinian organization that controls the Gaza Strip. The conflict resulted in hundreds of deaths and injuries and caused extensive damage to infrastructure in Gaza. This event heightened tensions in the region and raised concerns about the possibility of a wider war. And let's not forget the ongoing Arab-Israeli conflict. Decades of conflict between Israel and various Arab nations, particularly those in the Middle East, have contributed to instability in the region. This long-standing hostility has created an environment of mistrust and has been a catalyst for violence and extremism. The Arab-Israeli conflict has been a major factor, shaping the political landscape of the Middle East and has influenced the decisions and actions of regional governments. So these are some of the key factors that have played a role in the current situation. It's a complex web of events that have shaped the alliances and relationships in the region. Now let's discuss how Russia is responding to the unfolding situation. Russia has called for a ceasefire in the ongoing conflict, urging restraint and de-escalation. They have emphasized the need for peaceful resolution of differences and have called for all parties to return to the negotiating table. Russia has also expressed concerns about the potential for the conflict to expand beyond the immediate region. They have highlighted the interconnectedness of the global economy and the potential spillover effects of the conflict on a broader scale. Russia has emphasized the need for international cooperation and dialogue to address the underlying issues driving the conflict. They have called for a comprehensive approach that takes into account the legitimate concerns of all parties involved. Furthermore, Russia has reaffirmed its commitment to the principles of international law and the sovereignty of all nations. They have stressed the importance of respecting the territorial integrity and security of all states and have called for a peaceful resolution of the conflict in accordance with international norms. China, on the other hand, is emphasizing the need for dialogue and diplomacy to ensure the stability of the global energy market, particularly regarding oil supplies. They're calling for all parties to exercise restraint and avoid actions that could disrupt the global economy. China recognizes the interconnectedness of the global economy and the potential impact of the conflict on international trade and financial markets. They are urging for the peaceful resolution of disputes through diplomatic channels and are encouraging all parties to maintain stability in the energy markets. The current situation highlights the growing multipolarity in international relations. With Russia and China taking more active roles in global affairs, the traditional U.S. dominance in shaping global responses is being challenged. This shift is evident in their approaches to the Israel-Palestine conflict. While Russia is emphasizing a ceasefire and dialogue, Xi and China is focusing on economic stability, these perspectives differ from the United States' position. The previous administration took a cautious approach to prevent the conflict from escalating into a broader regional or global war. They focused on diplomatic efforts to achieve a peaceful resolution and imposed targeted sanctions to deter further aggression. However, the current administration faces different challenges and may adopt a different course of action. It remains to be seen whether they will increase their involvement in seeking a resolution to the conflict or maintain a more restrained approach. As for the current administration, they have yet to reveal their full strategy regarding the conflict. Their response so far has been relatively muted compared to previous administrations. The current administration may prioritize de-escalation and diplomatic solutions to prevent the conflict from spiraling into a larger war. They may also focus on humanitarian aid and diplomatic efforts to bring about a ceasefire. Ultimately, the administration's response will likely be shaped by a combination of factors, including the severity of the situation, the potential for broader implications, and domestic public opinion. As the situation continues to develop, it will be crucial for the United States and other global powers to find a balanced approach that addresses the humanitarian crisis, promotes a peaceful resolution, and prevents further escalation. All right, everyone, we've covered a lot in this video. Now I want to hear your thoughts. How do you think the situation will unfold in the Middle East? Will the current trends continue? Let's discuss in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Your support helps us keep bringing you quality content. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more insightful analysis on global politics and international relations. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.